Just two white guys in a podcast, as it was always supposed to be.
As it was predestined. Two white guys with microphones.
Hi everybody, thanks for checking out this episode of the Coconut Curry Podcast. Before we get into it, I just wanted to give everyone a heads up that the video and audio are not synced up for this episode. We had this issue in a previous episode, and we think we figured out the reason why, but weren't able to fix it for this episode. So sorry for the issues. It might be best just to listen to the audio instead of watching the video and the audio. You can find us on all platforms, Apple and Spotify for podcast, or you could just not look at the video on YouTube. Thanks for watching and enjoy the episode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 27 of the Coconut Curry Podcast. On this episode, we are going to discuss March Madness, NFL free agency, and the new NFL rule changes. Yes. But before we do all that, if you're new around here, we are two college students today at the University of Pittsburgh. I'm Justin.
This is Peter.
And we're missing Raj today, our third co-star here, our diversity hire.
No, our buddy.
But he's out today, so it's just going to be us two chopping up about March Madness and NFL. We're available on all platforms, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, you can listen. And we're just a podcast talking about sports and hopefully offering a fresh new perspective.
Yes.
We like to toss in some personal aspects about our life
as
well. Please like, comment, subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. If you got this far, watch the whole episode. Give us that audience retention rate. I would appreciate that.
Even though it is what everybody feared, and it is just two white guys on the mics. But you know what? We got to roll. We got to do what we got to do.
We got to do what we got to do. We got to feed the fans.
We got to feed the family. We got to feed the fans. We got to do what we got to do, okay?
Reacting to comments is always the first segment
yes.
that we do, but we have no comments to react to because
because
the
video
if you
got
watched the last
up,
episode where we discussed our spring break trip to Nashville, the video was super delayed and messed up, so I didn't want to make any clips from that. But I hope everyone did enjoy that, and I appreciate everyone checking out that episode because it actually got decent views.
Also, I'd really, really hope that there wouldn't be a lot of negative comments on that when it's literally just us being like, hey, we had fun at spring break. And someone's like, kill yourself.
Well,
it's like, oh, cool.
Well, people probably definitely think we're idiots after some of the stories.
Oh, I
mean,
obviously.
So if you're watching this and you haven't gone back and you would like to get more insight to our personal life and how sometimes dumb we can all be.
Oh, of course.
You can go listen to
We all share one collective brain cell, like Bluetooth, and it was not
One's
in
only
Nashville.
on at all times.
We left it back in Pittsburgh. It wasn't in Nashville.
TSA took it.
TSA took it at the check-in.
But the actual first segment we're going to do today is Disgruntled Moment of the Week.
Classic.
Disgruntled meaning dissatisfied or angry. We talk about moments in our lives that made us disgruntled this week. It could be related to sports. It could not be related to sports. But mine this week is related to sports. Peter's heard me talk about this. My friends have heard me talk about this a lot. I have a March Madness bracket problem. I have a problem with it, and it's my fault. Every year I make a lot of March Madness brackets. You want to do things different. You want to have more cracks at the perfect bracket that you're never going to get. And I realize every single year that I actually never know who I'm rooting for. Because in every bracket, you have something going on. I usually have a same victor because I want to root for one team to win the whole thing. But I quickly realized that the things I say don't line up with the picks I've made, and the picks I made don't line up with the things I say. And suddenly my story's never straight. For example, I was very high on Yale beating Auburn. I will say that. I texted it in the group chat. I said, hey, I think Yale wins this game. They play a lot slower than Auburn does. It's going to throw them off. Auburn's going to come off this emotional high of the SEC championship game. Yale's going to get them, right? So I said that, and I made that pick in one or two brackets. And then I realized in the group chat that I said that in, that group chat's official bracket, I picked Auburn to go to the Final Four. Because I decided, I can't just have every bracket have Yale beat Auburn. Well, now I have a pick in the group chat, a text in the group chat that states that I think that Yale's going to win the game. I picked it in other brackets. I was confident about it. But then I picked Auburn to go to the Final Four in this bracket because I was trying to do things differently. And I never know my story. Like one bracket, I had Vermont beating Duke. Another bracket, I had Duke upsetting Houston. Now I don't know what to do because when Duke won against Vermont, I was like, what do I do? Like,
do I celebrate? Do I
celebrate? Like, what do we do here? And it's happening all across. Like I had Purdue going in the Final Four in one bracket and Gonzaga beating Purdue. Like I have the Purdue-Gonzaga matchup in every single bracket that I have. And I'm like, I don't know who I'm rooting for because in one bracket, like I'm rooting for Gonzaga because I don't like Purdue. But like Purdue could help me out in one bracket by making my bracket better, and then in another bracket, I need Purdue to win the game, and I need Gonzaga to win. It's all over the place. And I've realized that this is an intervention for me right now.
You gotta stop.
Next year, I'm making one bracket, and no matter how many groups I do, I'm submitting one bracket.
All
That's
right,
what I'm gonna
big dog.
ride with.
Let's see.
It could be terrible. It could be the perfect bracket. It could be the worst bracket you've ever seen. But at least I will have a clear rooting interest in every game, in every scenario, versus now I don't I have Iowa State winning in one bracket. I have Houston winning in two other brackets. Like, that's fine. They're on opposite sides. Like, I can generally root for what's going on over there. But it's all the small first round matchups where I don't actually ever know who I'm rooting for. And it's especially with the Yale Auburn thing, that's when I realized I had a problem.
There we go.
So I'm dissatisfied and angry and disgruntled about how many brackets. I don't even make that many brackets, but I make enough that I don't actually know what I'm
You don't even know what you're submitting.
And then you put the financial aspect of it
Oh,
when you're
God.
making sports bets, right? Example, I was high on Clemson. Now we're just getting to rant here. I was high on Clemson
go.
beating New Mexico because I said, hey, Clemson's a 6 seed. New Mexico's an 11 seed. It kind of seems a little bit weird to me. Everyone thinks New Mexico is going to win this game. Like, that's kind of suspicious. Like, I know New Mexico is like a good team and Clemson wasn't playing well, but it still seemed a little off to me. I like the idea of fading New Mexico, taking Clemson just to win the game outright as a higher seed. And then that did happen, and I predicted that in some brackets. Cool. But then I parlayed a Yale victory, which happened, and New Mexico -2.5. Like, what are we doing here?
What are we thinking?
And nothing lines up correctly, and now I just have all this cognitive dissonance about what I'm actually supposed to believe, and I'm in so much mental distress because my finances aren't in order, my ego isn't in order, and my brackets aren't in order, and
There's just so many wires crossed.
I'm stressed out, man.
Stressed out. I don't know what to think. Good Lord. Oh, my God.
Please get me off the mic. Your turn.
We got to get you off the mic. All right. So my disgruntled moment of the week is kind of with just the rules of basketball in general. Now, I'm a much more casual basketball fan, hand up. I will absolutely admit that. I follow it decently enough, but just watching some of these games, and I know I'm about to sound like an old head that's like, oh, well, they don't play defense anymore. But it seems almost impossible to play defense, especially in college. And even though, especially it seems like in college, they let them play a little bit, but there's the 3-second rule when it comes to the restricted area. There was one thing that drove me absolutely insane. It was, I forget which game this was. I think it might have been, I think we might have been watching Duke or somebody like that. But it was, I think it was Duke. But each time that the offense would shoot the ball, the guy would miss. Both teams would go up for the rebound. The guy on offense would get the rebound, immediately slam himself into the other guy that's on defense, throw it up, and get an and one every single time. And I'm like, what the hell is the defense supposed to do? Because they're trying to go get the rebound, but then when they get if the other guy gets the rebound, they just have to run away and make sure they can at least get the and one. Just sprint away. That seems so stupid. I understand the restricted zone because you don't want people in that area, people coming down and stuff. I understand the restricted zone. But there's got to be some, come on. If there's a rebound there's got to be some sort of, all right, clearly they were just going up for the rebound. They can't just run away from the guy. And the guy can't just initiate contact in the restricted zone and then just get an easy and one each time.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of calls and games recently where I've seen a lot of foul calls. I'm just do we need to call that? It seems excessive.
Or even just officiating in general. It's been terrible.
The A&M Houston game was a game that there was, all four of Houston starters fouled out. 41 free throws for A&M. And Houston even themselves had 26. There was a lot of foul calls always in Purdue's games.
Or in the Oakland NC State game where it was it was tipped off of some guy. The ball was just nowhere near anybody on the other team, and Oakland just gets the ball.
That was crazy.
What? What are you talking about?
I think officiating has been bad.
It's been rough,
and some of the foul calls have been suspect at best.
Yeah. So basically, I just don't understand basketball, and it makes me angry that guys are literally just standing there trying to not even play defense. They're just standing there. They're getting abused.
I think the worst part of it is when you have a big size matchup, when you have Zach Edey for Purdue, and just playing against guys who teams that might have centers who are only 6'8", and he's 7'4". You get a lot of the slapping on the wrist and arm crap that gets called, which it's a fair foul call, but it frustrates me because the other team doesn't have the personnel to even match Zach Edey. Because just you can't find that many 7'4" guys at college basketball who aren't in like big programs.
Because it doesn't even give the other team a chance then, because then it's literally just like, okay, who's the tallest guy that can just stand over everybody that we can just lob the ball to every single time.
And that's hard for me sometimes to watch, because even in pro basketball, you usually have centers who are all over 7 feet tall. The biggest center would be Wemby, who's like 7'5", 7'6". I don't think 7. I think 7'5", 7'4".
Yeah.
But you still have guys like Embiid who are 7 feet, long wingspan, like can like match up with them.
But he's like really big.
Like if you watched the Utah State and Purdue game, there was just no one on the court who could match up size-wise with Zach Edey, and then you just get a lot of foul calls because people are trying just to do everything possible to eliminate the height factor, but the only thing that can really do that is getting more better players. So definitely a little bit frustrating.
Not even better, just taller. Like literally just taller.
Yep.
So I don't know. I just don't understand the rules of basketball. It just seems dumb that people can't stand in that area and get a rebound.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I could be very off course with this, but whatever.
That is the Disgruntled moment of the week. Yes. Unfortunately, we don't get to hear Raj's today. Alrighty, so moving on here, we are going to talk about March Madness, because as we kind of got into it a little bit, March Madness is a great time of the year for anybody who's in college or in high school. Like, I always remember March Madness in high school just being a super electric, because you're on your phone in class, you got it under the table.
Everybody's got it. And if you go to any lectures in college, everybody's laptop has March Madness up. It's so good.
I've been a little bit disgruntled because March Madness games on last Friday. So this will come out on Wednesday or Thursday for you guys. So last Friday, I'm at work, and
you can't just have March Madness up while like rooming a patient.
Yeah, you can't do that when you're at work. There's definitely levels to professionalism, and so I was like, oh gosh, I can't watch March Madness.
Could you imagine if you were just like in the doctor's office, and then like some dude comes by with like the little cart with the screen on it, and it's just March Madness.
Yep.
And he's just like, oh sorry.
Or like you're in the middle of rooming a patient, and you're like, oh my god.
Oh, sorry, I just got an update on my Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Just like watching the game on there.
But I remember my Organic 2 lectures during my sophomore year of college. I was like just like not locked in on the lecture at all.
Glued to the screen.
Yep. And in high school, it's super fun. You've got your bracket. You're talking with your friends. You've got it on in class. You're not paying attention to what the teacher says. So March Madness is always electric.
But we want you to pay attention in class.
Yeah, pay attention in class.
That's the formal opinion of the Coconut Curry podcast.
Yeah, the actions of the members don't reflect the views of the members.
Yes, the actions of the individual members do not reflect the organization as a whole.
Yep. Amen. March Madness is always one of my favorite times of the year, just because of all the chaos. And
this year's been ridiculous.
And well, it's always been ridiculous, but disappointingly this year for many people, not to me. All the 1 seeds, 2 seeds advanced, and 3 of the 2 seeds advanced. 3 seeds advanced.
It's been like a lot of consistent upsets instead of like what feels like a bunch of big upsets, and then like kind of like those like middle ground ones. It felt like 1 and 2, like any team below 1 and 2 was fair game to get eliminated immediately. Like it was, what Kentucky got beat out by Oakland.
Well, so we can go.
Oh yeah, I guess we'll just go through.
We'll just go through this. Like we're gonna rapid fire through some games.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the 1 seed a little bit. UConn destroys Stetson. 39-point victory. Like, never a doubt. There have been some back-to-back 1 seeds, like a couple 1 seed upsets.
Like, they look legit.
Purdue last year upset by Fairleigh Dickinson.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple years ago, you have UAB upset
Virginia.
Yes. So, like, you always are checking those now because of those recent upsets. And so, 39-point blowout, nothing. You have a 9-8, whatever. You have a 5 beating a 12. It was a close game, San Diego State, UAB. But UMB for the upset against Virginia, not UAB. But 5 pulls it out against a 12. Yale wins. That was a big upset.
That was a big upset.
If people aren't aware here, Auburn was extremely highly ranked into this tournament. A lot of people thought they were underseeded as a 4 seed. There was a lot of advanced metrics that suggested that Auburn was actually the 4th best team in college basketball.
Yeah.
People would have like UConn, Houston, and Purdue top 3.
And
some people were saying that Auburn should have been like the 4th best team in college basketball outright, and a 4 seed placement would indicate that they were from 12 to 16. So in terms of overall ranking, so people thought Auburn were underseeded. People thought Auburn had a lot of people had Final Four runs from them, or
including you.
Yeah, in one bracket. In other brackets, I predicted this. But Yale gets the upset.
The nerds did it.
Yep.
The Yale nerds.
And then shout out to Pittsburgh City as a whole, Duquesne pulls off the upset against BYU.
Shout out Duquesne.
So those were actually two of the bigger first-round upsets that you look at there. The Mormons couldn't pull it out.
Damn it, they were so close.
Yep. But Illinois, 3 seed, 14 seed Moorhead just knocks it out of the park.
Moorhead really failed us with the meme names.
Yeah.
That we had Oral Roberts, we had Fairleigh Dickinson. We needed Moorhead.
There was one more too. I can't remember what it was.
Well, there was St. Peter's was like they were a meme team, but those were the two like
sus
they were the
names,
sus names, but like Moorhead, like come on, man, it's right there.
And Moorhead actually, like I watched a lot of that game because I thought like this could be a potential upset, and they were close for most of the game, and then Illinois just went on this crazy run and took them out of that. So anyway, Washington State 7 beats number 10 Drake. Close game right there. Actually, this game was nuts because
didn't they come back?
I think Drake was
up 17. I think.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous.
It was like 17 with like it might have been like 8 minutes left or something like that.
No, that was Dayton, Nevada.
Dayton, Nevada.
Yep,
That's what
we'll get into that.
Different D-name team.
Yeah. And then Iowa State 2 seed, 17-point victory against South Dakota State. So there, you're kind of looking at the 1-2 seeds have no trouble getting through. 1, 2, 3 have no trouble getting through. Auburn loses. That's huge. Duquesne wins. Okay, so a good mix of upsets. Everyone stays intact here. North Carolina destroys Wagner. Michigan State destroys Mississippi State. Then we have 12-5. Grand Canyon beats St. Mary's. But I would like to acknowledge here, this was a very common upset pick. I mean,
this was like one of the bigger ones that people were like, this is definitely like the way that St. Mary's is playing. They could definitely beat this team.
And like obviously every 5-12 matchup, everybody knows, even if you're a casual NCAA bracket goer, everyone knows that the 5-12 is where you predict a lot of upsets here. But Grand Canyon was, I think they might have been 4.5 point, 5.5 point dogs for this game.
Yeah. A
lot of experts thought Grand Canyon would get, like, this was not an outcome that people were shocked to see. So even when we say like a 12 seed beat a 5, it doesn't feel like even at 4-13 for the Yale Auburn was a lot more shocking than a 5-12 upset here.
Yep.
Alabama beats Charleston. Clemson, and we'll talk about Clemson a little bit. Clemson 6 beats 11 New Mexico. Baylor 3 wins. Dayton, Nevada was a crazy game.
That was the crazy game.
Nevada's up 17 points with like 7 minutes left.
Blew that comeback,
dude. Back. And then Arizona wins. So even then, we got a 2 seed advance, a 7 seed, 3, 6, 4. The only upset really, because Michigan State was favored against Mississippi State.
Yep.
Was Grand Canyon winning, which again is something many people predicted. So not a crazy bracket there. Texas advances, Tennessee advances. That's a 2-7. Creighton goes. Oregon does beat South Carolina in an 11-6 matchup. Again, 11-6s are close.
But Oregon was also one of those teams that was like, they got a lot of firepower on that team, so they definitely could pull it off.
Yep. Kansas gets through in a Samford game that people thought that could have been close. Gonzaga gets through. Utah State 8 gets through. Purdue gets through after destroying Grambling State. Nothing shocking there. Then Marquette gets through. Colorado beats Florida.
That was nuts.
And here's a little bit where some drama happened and some March Madness legends have been born.
Oh,
Oakland takes down Kentucky. This was the big upset of the tournament,
because
Oakland, a team nobody even knew where Oakland was from.
Because Oakland, not Oakland, California, not Oakland, the suburb in Pittsburgh,
where we live.
Oakland in Rochester, not in New York, Michigan. What?
And they've just got and we'll talk about Jack Golke.
Yeah.
But they make a huge upset here.
Yeah.
And then NC State, the 11 seed, who won the ACC tournament 5 games in 5 days.
Yeah. They had like a 4-game losing streak, and then they've won like 7 straight.
Yep,
now.
7 straight now, and so they take down Texas Tech. So those were 11 and 14 seeds advancing. That was huge.
Yeah.
Duke takes down Vermont, no problem. James Madison, again, a 12-5 matchup, but everybody
thought Wisconsin was losing.
James Madison could win that game. Even these games that there were upsets,
Yeah.
The only one that was really shocking was Yale, Auburn. A lot of people predicted this type of stuff. A&M gets through, Houston gets through, no problem. So I go through all that to say there weren't that many crazy upsets. Because
but there just seemed like there was more, but they weren't as ridiculous as they have been in the past.
Because then you can go through the next round, which this might be horrible to listen to. But you have the 1 seed Houston advance, the 4 seed Duke advance. You have an 11-14 matchup where the 11 seed advances, the 2 seed advances. So now we got a 1, 2, 4, and 11 seed.
Yeah.
And the Sweet 16 up in the South region. That's not shocking.
Yeah.
Like, you have an 11 seed. A Cinderella team always snakes through. Again, you had 14.
But then it's like 1, 2, 1, 3.
Yep.
Like,
So then we go over to the Midwest region. 1 Purdue versus 5 Gonzaga. 4 or 5 matchups.
Yeah.
No one cares. 2 Tennessee, 3 Creighton. Okay, I know that Creighton-Oregon game was crazy.
Yeah.
Double overtime.
that was fun.
And Creighton destroyed them in overtime. That was nuts.
That was ridiculous.
But no matter, the outcome is still 1, 2, 3, 5 in that conference. Nothing crazy there. Go over to the West. 1-4 North Carolina, Alabama. 2-6 there. So you go.
Wow,
okay,
we got a 6 seed. Holy
yeah,
crap!
Oh, wow, big whoop-de-doo. We got a 6
Yeah.
seed that sneaks through a little bit. Like, that's nothing super crazy about that. And then you go up to the East region. 1 UConn, 5 San Diego State, 2 Iowa State, 3 Illinois. So really, you have all the players, all the good teams there.
Yeah.
And for me, as a fan of basketball, I know a little bit more about basketball than I do like schematically than football. I love this because I want to see
Just good basketball.
I want to see good upcoming games of basketball versus there's the potential. Now, I know teams get there for a reason, but let's say Grand Canyon beats Alabama and we got North Carolina, Grand Canyon. Am I interested in seeing a potential like annihilation?
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. I mean, like, I do love the Cinderella runs, but like it always comes to a crashing halt. Like, I love that it's like, they can go like so far, but it's like they're gonna crash and burn. Like, that's the entire point. Like, you're just going up against like teams that just have so much more talent. It's like the odds of you not only winning like a game against like one upset, then you got to get another upset, then another. But the issue is that the more you're in these games, the more film these teams have to watch.
Yep.
The more they're like, okay, well, now we can actually game plan against them. We know how to scheme. We know what they're going to do. Versus you look at a team like North Carolina, and it's like, well, you know what they're going to do. You just can't stop them.
Yeah. You're just not talented enough.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think it's really well said. This is a lesson to everybody who you're probably not watching this podcast, but if you are, this is a lesson that when you pick 4 seeds, 5 seeds, some more dark horses to make big runs, if you want to win your bracket, you might be better off just sticking to the 1 and 2 seeds because they're all there. They're all there.
They're all there.
So that was just a really run down the bracket, just to say that there have not been a crazy amount of upsets. But
it was like that first round felt like there was a bunch of them, but then it's like after that, none. That was it.
There was a crazy stretch where there was like every favorite one except for Baylor.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was like every single one. It was like favorite. They were like 20-0 or something like that at one point. It's like, why am I watching this? Like,
Also, here, shout out Bijan Robinson. What an electric day one.
Yeah, he had a perfect bracket. He was like one of the last people with a perfect bracket. Yeah. Shout out to the Pelicans running back.
Yeah, legendary run right there.
Yeah.
I did want to touch on NC State having an absolutely fantastic run.
Oh yeah.
Can you plug in the charger?
Oh, did it unplug?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I think I pulled out. That's what. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
No, I was going to say that's what she said.
I'll call you anyway.
Right. That's better. Right. Christ, this podcast and technical issues.
So going forward, NC State continues their legendary run. We've got 7 straight wins for them.
Yeah.
They go 5 for 5 for the ACC tournament, and then they take down 6 Texas Tech in this tournament, and then they go out and beat Oakland in a overtime game that was
really fun game.
Really fun game to watch. We were watching it together, and it was a fun game. Just, I mean, watching their team, they've it's kind of been dominant. They didn't really face a ton of like pressure in the ACC tournament. They won a lot of those games by big. They took care of Texas Tech by 13 points, and Oakland, of course,
they beat Carolina.
Yeah, I think if there is a year that we see an 11 seed
like go deep, like
the lowest seed or highest seed to win the NCAA tournament is Villanova at 8.
Yeah,
which was so many odd years ago. And I think of that the next team, this NC State team has the tools because of the win against North Carolina.
Yeah.
And just what they've been able to accomplish. Like, I don't know what that line is against Marquette. They're not favored to beat Marquette, but they beat UNC. They can beat Marquette.
Yeah, I can definitely see it.
And if they go forward into Duke, they beat Duke in the tournament. So they would have that matchup favored there. So there's just a lot of interesting things here where I'm like,
there could be some.
I am not betting them to beat Marquette, and I am not betting them to win the tournament.
But
it could happen.
It could happen.
So really impressive there. They've got the center who, of course, a little bit on the heftier side. In the media.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, and the media loves him. Shout out DJ Burns. Just having a great run the last. This is what March is about, right?
Yeah, it's like it's just about the weird crap that happens, like the weird random players that come out of nowhere that everybody falls in love with.
Yeah, and I think it really shows that the talent that is available at the NCAA level. Like, you don't hear about these players during the regular season. They get overshadowed by guys like Zach Edey, who can win Player of the Year, Flipkowski, who plays for
Duke. Everybody on Kentucky.
Yep.
That then gets overshadowed by some accounting major with the worst hairline you've ever seen, dropping 10 threes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can really have these guys shine in the tournament, which is just awesome to see. And DJ Burns is one of those, and somebody people will be looking for during that next round matchup this upcoming Thursday and Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving forward to the next topic of discussion in March Madness is I personally wanted to give a round of applause to Clemson. Clemson, and we talked about it a little bit, underdogs as a 6-11 matchup.
Crazy.
2.5 dogs against New Mexico. They win.
Yeah.
Convincingly. Dogs against Baylor, 3 seed, win convincingly. I mean, this is a team that expert and people were thinking weren't going to make it out of the first round.
Yep.
And now they're in the Sweet 16, which for their school, for their program, it is really big. And just if you're a 6 seed and you're favored to win and you lose, you go, they got us. But they were underdogs as the 6 seed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it's unheard of. I've never really seen that before.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
And that first game, they really they won that game by a huge margin. And I think that's just really testament to the coaching staff. They won by 21 points. They used it as motivation, that underdog mentality.
Because to have that underdog mentality as a 6 seed is dangerous.
Yeah,
because for literally
because the talent's there.
Because exactly, the talent is clearly there if they're a 6 seed, and then for everybody to be counting them out, it's it's us against the world. We have the talent. We know we have it.
Yeah, I think it's super cool. I don't really like Clemson as an ACC team. Right now with Pitt getting snubbed out of the tournament and everything like that. But
Virginia being absolute booty.
Yeah, but
whatever.
In alliance with the ACC a little bit,
exactly.
I'm happy to see Clemson really silence some doubters this run and make it to the Sweet 16 when they were underdogs both times.
Yeah.
When again they should have kind of been favored as a 6 seed. So that's special to them. And
also just shout out the ACC in general. They've been doing pretty well in this tournament.
Yep.
And also the SEC. That commissioner is such an ass. You were like, oh, why are we letting these other teams in? Because we have better talent. You went 1 for 5 in the bracket, okay? First round. Almost all of your teams got eliminated. You're garbage. All right? Yeah. Stick to football. Basketball's ours.
Yeah, Duke, NC State, Clemson, North Carolina all come through here to the Sweet 16. That's 25% representation there. And you've got for the SEC...
Bama.
Tennessee
and Bama.
Yeah, and I think Alabama might be seeing a quick ride home back to where they play Tuscaloosa. Yeah, they'll be seeing a quick ride back there against North Carolina.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I guess 2 for whatever.
Yeah, but it's just not a great look. Pitt got snubbed.
Pitt absolutely got snubbed, and there was some other Big East schools that also got snubbed.
Yeah, there were a lot of snubs. I think. What's hard about the March Madness tournament is the 64 best teams don't get in.
It's just not going to happen.
And I think that's not the point of March Madness. I do wonder if there's a way that we can. I don't think we should expand the tournament. That's been a debate.
No,
maybe that's a topic for a different day. Actually, let's just do it now. Should the tournament expand? No.
Anyway,
112 teams or 108 or whatever.
That's ridiculous.
Sounds ridiculous. I guess they're saying 100 and maybe 16 or whatever for sure. No. Anyway, it's dumb. You would just see more annihilate because I would say there's 30, 40, 30, I don't know the quick math, but 30 teams maybe that are better than certain teams that are in. but they don't get in because they didn't win their conference or whatnot. Like Pitt, for example.
And but then that's the thing is like that's just kind of part of it though. It's like
that is part of it.
Yeah.
And I'm okay if we can try to think of ways to like negate that. Like should Stetson get in for whatever reason versus a team like Pitt? Like it doesn't really seem fair.
Yeah.
But 100 plus, we're gonna get some bozos in here who are gonna get whacked around.
It's literally gonna be the equivalent of like that team's equipment manager playing against like Division I opponents.
Here the quick logic here is like Wagner played Howard in a first 4 game. Wagner won by 30 points. So they got the invitation to go play North Carolina where they got smacked by 38 points. 28 points. So the question is, do you want Howard to play against like a 2 seed like Arizona where they could have gotten smacked by 25 points? Like it's not very productive, and I think I don't agree with the if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality. I think there is times you can still make tweaks, but March Madness is extremely popular. It's extremely fun. It already goes pretty long. Like we have this weekend, the upcoming weekend, and there will be another weekend after that of games. So it's like 3 straight weeks of games. I don't think we need to go to 4 or 5 weeks for March Madness. Keep it where it is. We don't need to see Montana State as an actual like legit tournament team who doesn't have to play a first 4 games.
I don't want to see UNC go up against North Dakota State and just demolish them. Like no one wants to see that.
I prefer to find ways where we could get 10 seed Boise State who played Colorado in a first 4 game. Can we get them into the tournament as a solidified team? Can we get Virginia I know I don't like Virginia, but can we get them in as a solid team? Can we get Pitt in as a solid team? Can we get these teams that...
Do you hear that?
Yeah.
I've been hearing that for a little bit. I don't know what that is.
Something's weird here.
Whatever. All right. Anyway, this house is haunted. All right.
Yep.
Moving on.
Wanted to talk about UConn. Dominant run so far. They've just handled the first 2 opponents. Team favored to win. Everybody's picking them to win the tournament as a whole, and they've just been dominant so far. It's cool. Speaking of like March to Legends, Jack Golke plays for Oakland. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about him. Just
dog.
Only shoots threes.
This man does not sniff the paint.
All his only goal is to shoot threes, and he did a great job against Kentucky, having like 30 points for them. Gets an NIL deal with TurboTax and Buffalo Wild Wings, and has made himself a ton of money.
Yeah.
March legend. I mean, it's just really fun March Madness when these legends are born. You don't in the NBA they're already legends.
Yeah.
When they come into like their name's a household name. When you get to the playoffs, maybe some other guys get a little bit more recognition. Andrew Wiggins when the Warriors and Celtics played got a lot more recognition. But March is where people who you had no idea existed become really cool.
Yeah.
And Jack Golke did that.
He is the meme character of this year's March Madness,
and I love it.
I love it. It was so funny because like watching it back, like I've seen some like film breakdowns and stuff about like Kentucky had some like awful coaching during that game. Which I know, shocker, right? But also, like, people were just like watching. It's like, what are you supposed to do against that? Where he's coming like full speed off of a screen, catches it, doesn't even dribble, just turns, shoots like a 35-footer, and it's just nothing but net. It's like there's nothing you can just absolute cash every time. It's like, what do you like? Even I think the Kentucky coach at one point was like, what am I supposed to tell him to do?
And everything that comes out about him, his pregame ritual, no layups, just
no
only
layups,
three, only shooting.
Yeah, he like that the day of the game, he shoots like he goes out like before the team's even out there, shoots 250 threes, then comes back during team, shoots 500 shots. So he's shooting 750 threes before he even steps onto the
court.
Which
is crazy because this kid plays at a bad D1 program.
like he was like D2 like a couple years ago, and then now it's like, oh yeah, we'll bring you over to Oakland, and then they're like, all right, we're in the tournament.
And he's a March legend. Just
oh my god,
awesome thing to see there. And then I did want to do a quick, just because we can. Let's predict the next round games. Rapid fire. All right. UConn, San Diego State.
UConn.
Yep, taking UConn here. I don't think
UConn.
They're just all the way. Iowa State, Illinois.
What are the seeds? You know what? Iowa State.
I took Iowa State to win the tournament in our bracket. I have loved what I've seen out of Illinois.
Can
recently.
you have more cognitive dissonance at this point? Good Lord.
I've watched the tape. I've watched Illinois play. I'm really impressed with what they've been able to do, so I'm going to take Illinois in this game.
Fine.
North Carolina, Alabama.
North Carolina.
I hate being like, we're just going to take the 1 seed, but
Yeah.
North Carolina wins. Clemson, Arizona.
Arizona.
I'm going to take Clemson.
You're going to take Clemson. You know what? I'll ride with the ACC.
Give me Clemson.
Give me Clemson. Yeah.
I think Clemson plays at a lot slower pace than Arizona plays at, and I think Clemson's got a little bit of this dog in them here.
I can
Arizona's
see it.
known to be a team that kind of bows out of the tournament early, and I just wonder if
Yeah.
Clemson, kind of with the
Yeah.
underdog role a little bit. I know they've played above their heads in 2 games, but underdog role a little bit, slow the game down a little bit, get Arizona out of their wheelhouse. They did only beat Dayton by 10, which I don't remember what the line was for that game, but I just wonder if like Clemson can continue this big run they have here.
You've convinced me. Yeah.
Creighton, Tennessee. Going to be a fantastic game.
Give me Creighton.
Yeah, I was going to say give me Creighton as well. I think Tennessee's looked good, not offensively explosive. I think that Oregon game is just a big like confidence boost for Creighton to get out of there.
To go into double OT and then dominate Oregon in that second period.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yep. Purdue, Gonzaga.
I don't want to pick Purdue. I really don't. I hate Zach Edgy or whatever his last Eddy. I hate him. I don't hate him as a person. I just hate the way he plays. He's literally just big. That's his thing. He's just big. You know what? No, I'm not gonna pick them. Give me Gonzaga. I hate him.
I've had a lot of like conflicting stuff about this because I don't want Purdue to win. I want Gonzaga to win. I think Gonzaga could pull off the upset.
You're gonna take Purdue,
but I'm gonna take Purdue.
You're gonna take Purdue
here. I think the upset possibility exists. Yes. Gonzaga has more tools here to deal with Zach Edey. I think Purdue's gonna kind of gotten caught a little bit in these first couple games, like only going through Zach Edey because they're able to, which is great. But if that doesn't work, they haven't really had to go to much other stuff, and will they be able to? But Gonzaga has been impressive, but I think Purdue has a lot of talent on that team.
I'm picking Gonzaga out of spite. I don't think they're gonna win.
So I'm just gonna take Purdue. I think they're a good team here, but and I will take if Purdue and Creighton do end up being the matchup, I will take Creighton in that matchup. But I don't think that Gonzaga gets the job done here. I think they've kind of reached the end of the line for them. But I can see the upset happening. Marquette, NC State.
I really want to ride with the ACC. I don't know.
Give me NC State.
All right, convince me for NC State. That's it. I mean, they could.
I can tell you they've won their last 7 games.
8 straight. Give me NC State. Let's go. Give me Shaquille O'Neal with 50.
Yeah, I don't. That could go south, but I just think,
whatever.
I just think they'll pull it out.
Come on.
And then Houston, Duke.
The Wolfpack. What?
Houston, Duke.
Oh,
I'm gonna take Duke.
Is Houston injured?
They're a little bit. I mean, they just
a little banged up.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Duke.
I'll take Houston. I don't like Duke, even as much as I ride with the ACC. I just don't like Duke.
I think Houston game against A&M is either going to be a wake up call, or it's a sign that Duke might be able to take advantage of some of the things there.
True.
Duke was dominant against JMU.
Yeah,
and they played. I mean, it was a weird Vermont game, but they ended up getting the job done.
Is Filipowski playing after he nearly died by that fan?
Yeah,
he nearly got killed.
He is going to play.
Wow, that's really admirable of him that he's able to throw down dunks and be able to jump off that leg that nearly had to get amputated after that fan bumped into him. That's really admirable.
Yeah, he's a brave man.
So soft.
Any thoughts on you picked UConn to win tournament?
I actually picked Iowa State technically, but I have no faith in them at this point.
Yeah, okay.
But I think UConn, the way that they've been looking, I think they easily could.
Yeah, my confidence has shifted over to UConn.
Yeah.
I still think they won't win because I don't think a team will go back to back. It's very difficult.
Yeah, it's so hard to go back to back.
But I'm a little bit more nervous about Houston right now. Purdue, I just don't know if they're going to get the job done there.
No.
North Carolina could win, but again, they lost to NC State.
I don't want North Carolina to win because I think that one guy's ugly and annoying.
I'm
their
feeling
center.
Baycott.
I don't like. He's like 27.
Yeah,
he's like
Baycott.
he's like flexing on a kid that's like 18.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, get a job.
Yeah.
Like
I love Illinois. Been loving
Illinois. Yeah, Illinois
but they
does
could just
good.
lose to Iowa State,
Yeah.
and all this will be for nothing.
Also,
But
what crazy turnaround for Illinois that they got bounced by Pitt last year, and then are
Yeah.
just like literally a 3 seed and are so good this year.
yeah, Illinois has been great. I've been watching their games, like I said, and I just think they've looked great in all those games. So shout out to Illinois. I'm kind of riding with them right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a lot of March Madness talk. Looking forward to breaking down the weekends.
Yes.
Actually, it's fun because we'll have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday
Yeah.
games, and then we get to come here on Tuesday and just evaluate everything.
Just
until we get
everything,
to
yeah.
4 teams.
Yeah.
4 teams.
Yeah.
Goes by fast.
Yeah.
What we didn't get to do last week was
Oh,
go
God.
through NFL free agency.
There's so many.
There are so much, and I don't know if we're gonna ever have the time to get through all we want to talk about.
We gotta stick to the notable ones. If you can leave them in the comments. If there's somebody that we miss,
We'll
there's
bring them up next episode.
so much going on this year. I feel like this year more than others, there's just people moving everywhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement. I think a lot of people feel like they're kind of in the hunt, so they're vying for position, getting
Yeah.
maybe a QB to take them up one more step. Pittsburgh, and there's a lot of other teams just doing these small shifts on the edges.
Yep.
So let's start off. What I view as probably the biggest move of the free agency is Kirk Cousins going to the Atlanta Falcons.
Yep, they got the Mr. Game Manager, and that's not a chirp. That's like he's just good and like controls the ball. To a team that has so many weapons on it.
Yeah.
That has been so ass for no reason on offense specifically.
Yeah. It's really exciting.
Yeah, like I think finally to our fantasy owners that want to draft Kyle Pitts, I think this might be the
This
year.
is the year to draft him.
I think maybe. Although he did say that, I guess Kirk Cousins was joking with Kyle Pitts that is like, oh, well, like I want to give you something for the number 8. And Kyle Pitts is like, oh, well, you could just give me targets. So that Kirk Cousins didn't take his number. So he might be screwed, but I think Kirk Cousins will throw it to like his 6'6" tight end that could run like a 4.4.
Yeah.
I'm just a wild guess out here.
Yeah. So and they also signed Darnell Mooney. So right now you've got
Yes.
Drake London, Darnell Mooney,
Kyle
Pitts,
Pitts,
Bijan
Bijan
Robinson,
Robinson,
Tyler Algier,
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins.
That's a pretty solid offense.
They have a good offensive line.
They have one of the best run blocking offensive lines in
Yeah.
the league.
So, and they have a high draft pick, which they could use on a lot of different targets.
High draft pick.
We could talk about Ramadunze. We could talk about Malik Neighbors.
I think they
Brian-
got to go defense.
I think they're going to go defense as well,
Yeah.
but
I mean, they could go like Jalen Verse.
the only question is, and
Jared
this always
Verse.
brings up Jared Verse,
Yeah.
or
Jason,
what's his face from Alabama,
Dallas Turner.
Dallas Turner. Yeah.
Yep.
I think what's interesting is when you get a defensive head coach in the room, they might feel more confident they can get defensive studs in the second
Yep.
and third round here, and then use a high pick on offense.
Because like they know it's like, okay, this is guaranteed. We can kind of write that off. I know I can scout good defenders later on because I know what it takes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just do you think this puts the Falcons over the edge?
Well, because my thing is that who's in their division? It's Carolina, Tampa, Falcons, Saints. I think the Saints are still treading water. They've been treading water forever.
They clearly have the most dynamic offense in that. On
paper they have the most dynamic offense. I think the team to beat still is Tampa Bay just because they're more balanced overall. I think the Saints are just like such a weird team because like they're just like fine forever. And like didn't they release Michael Thomas? Like I don't think
Did
or something like that. Like they're like I don't know if he's playing this year or something. There's something up with him. But like their offense is like Alvin Kamara, and like Chris Olave.
Yeah, he's an ex-Saint.
Yeah, ex-Saint. Yeah. So like it's Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, and Derek Carr.
Yep.
Like that's their offense, and their defense is like pretty solid. They have Cam Jordan. They have Demario Davis. They got Marcus Lattimore. They got the Honey Badger still.
Yeah.
Like it's like I can sit here and list off names, but like none of that really convinces me that it's like they're the same team.
Yep.
Like nothing's changed.
Yeah.
They didn't sign anybody really.
I have no
notable.
reason to believe their team's going to be any different next year than it has been the last couple years.
Ryan Ramczyk, one of their tackles, might be out for the season. They might actually have to cut him at this point because he's just not going to be able to play. It's like they're just going to be second in that division, I feel like, until something changes.
Yep, I agree.
Until something really, really changes, they're going to be second. Bucks are still the team to beat because they got a lot of young talent on that defense. They did just lose. Shout out Kalijah Cansey. They did just lose Devin White, although Devin White is a good linebacker. I don't know if he's a great linebacker. But of course, for the Eagles, that's all they need.
Yeah.
They just need something. They need anything. But,
I was going to say.
Look, exactly. So I think, especially with Levante David still there, I think they could still build up. They can still build a linebacking core with him there, kind of as almost like a coach on the field sort of thing. Baker is going to be there. They got Mike Evans is going to be back. They got Chris Godwin there. Like they're still going to be solid.
Yeah,
they're still going to be a solid team. So I do think the Falcons have the potential to beat them out in that division. I have no idea if they're actually going to do it because it's the Falcons and they can always choke it away at any point in any game. So no matter what. So we'll need to see. I know it's a boring ass answer, but like we'll need to see. But for right now, I will say that the Falcons are going to win that division.
Fair enough.
Yes,
I like the Falcons to win the division.
And the Panthers suck, so they're irrelevant.
Yep. Next move was Derrick Henry to the Ravens.
That's perfect. Like that's a perfect fit.
Yes, big of a fan.
Okay, well, why?
For the Ravens, I feel like their identity has been, we actually don't really have a good running back. Like Lamar is our running back, and they do go through the run game. But part of the dynamic part is you don't know if like Lamar is going to run or Derrick Henry's going to run. Not Lamar. Derrick Henry's on team. You don't know if Lamar's going to run or if the running back's going to run.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if this like simplifies their offense a little too much. And you're paying a running back a lot of money. It's not a lot of money, but you're paying a running back significant money.
Yeah.
And I don't love that.
Mm-hmm.
And Derrick Henry, it's first time off the Titans, right? First team off. He's yeah. First team off the Titans. Didn't have like a fantastic year last year. Maybe declining a little bit as an athlete. I just wonder if the Ravens cared a little bit too much about getting the splashier move instead of just building around their team and making it better. Like I still think wide receivers a need for them. They lost some defensive talent. So I like it. I'm not sure if I love it.
I really do like it because for a little while now, or at least since Lamar Jackson has been the starter of that team, they've really changed their identity. Because before you had Joe Flacco, they were very pass heavy offense. They still had some decent running backs like Ray Rice, but we don't speak his name. But it was much more pass focused and all that. But then once Lamar really started to shine, they switched the offense to lean into what his strengths were, and that was one of the best things they ever did. They've made AFC Championship game. They made multiple AFC Championship games. They went deep in the playoffs a couple of times. They've been a very, very good team, and I think now the idea of the one thing that's been hurting the Ravens RPO, the run pass option, is that no one really feared the running back that Lamar was handing the ball to, because Lamar is very elusive, but he's also gotten a lot smarter where he doesn't try to get that extra yard or whatever, and he goes down a lot more so that way he can extend his career, which very smart. Like, don't get me wrong. But now you kind of have that like big bruising like guy that's like, all right, you're going to need to run up the gut and meet Derrick Henry in the middle, who's 6'3", 250 pounds, and can run a 4.4.
Going to run you over.
Like, who's going to like hit you like a truck. So it's like, all right, you're either going to get hit by a truck, or you're going to get shaken out of your shoes, or Lamar's going to lob it over your head to Zay Flowers, who's streaking across the field. So I think that
he's what across the field?
Streaking. All right, calm down. Settle down here. But that's, I think, going to be like their big kind of game plan for like this next upcoming season, because now they really have a threat when it comes to that run pass option, because like they kind of did running back by committee for a little while now, and like it's worked fine, but when it worked at its best, that was when Marvin Ingram. Marvin Ingram? Yeah. No, I was thinking of Melvin Gordon for some reason. I don't know why. I was like, that's not him. But wait, he was on that team at one point. Hang on. I was right. But when Marvin Ingram was much better than he was, I guess, now, that's really when the 2019 Ravens team, when they were incredible, Lamar was the unanimous MVP.
When they lost in the first round.
Ignoring that. But that's really where that offense was at its best. So I do really like the fit. They do have other needs that they need to fill. They did lose Patrick Queen. They did lose some guys on defense. They were able to sign one of their young defensive tackles. They got some holes to fill. I think it's a really good fit for their offense, but of course we got to see.
What I do like is it definitely puts emphasis on extending Lamar Jackson's career and reducing injuries, and you're going to hand off some more snaps to Derrick Henry, and I do think that is good.
Mm-hmm.
The next move is, this is a guy I would have liked to see the Ravens go after, is Keenan Allen going to the Bears.
Yep.
And we can talk about the Bears kind of free agency as a whole. I absolutely love what the Chicago Bears have done.
I didn't realize that the Bears were going to go push their chips this hard into the table. They've actually had a really, really good offseason.
Yeah. So now you're looking at a team with a running back of DeAndre Swift, who they signed from the Eagles.
Yep.
This offseason. Keenan Allen, which they got for a draft pick.
Yep.
And then obviously needed a contract, but cap hit.
They could afford it.
Yep. And then you have
DJ Moore,
thank you. And then they have their tight ends are already there.
Cole Kmet.
And they signed Gerald Everett. And so they got those guys.
They also have Robert Tonyan.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they've got a good team there. They went 7-9 last year.
Yep.
Or 7-10, something like that. And so I love what they did to put this offense in a system where you got DeAndre Swift, who just played with a pro quarterback.
Yeah.
Played with Jared Goff in Lions. Played with Jalen Hurts for the Eagles.
Yep.
And he's got a good quarterback there, which should work well with Caleb Williams coming as a new guy. Keenan Allen, who's been a great receiver for a couple years.
Good jump ball, consistent catcher kind of guy. Yep. He'll be able to go get it.
DJ Moore's now wide receiver 2. Again, I don't think either of those receivers are the guys you want as your 1.
But having them now both on the field, it's one of them has to be the one.
Yep, and I think at least it's 2 good receivers. Their tight end group is good. You work on the offensive line, and now you finally got the system that I feel like Caleb Williams can kind of slide into, and it's not a big concern where we look at a team like the Patriots and we're like, if we get a quarterback there, that's concerning.
Yeah.
And so I really like what they've done. I really like this Keenan Allen move because it just says Keenan just being like, Caleb, I will be open.
Yeah.
I'm your security blanket.
I'm a veteran receiver that's going to be able to get open, that's going to catch this.
You will get 8 completions a game because you will throw it to me 8 times a game.
Exactly.
And I think that's really good to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love that move. I think everybody's a fan of it.
Yeah, that was a really, really good move.
I would like to talk about that from the Chargers front real quick.
What are they doing?
Chargers have made no moves.
They're just blowing it up.
I'm going to gloat again.
You are.
I said this. Everybody was like, oh, Harbaugh, this is great for the Chargers. I agree Harbaugh was a great move for the Chargers, but people forgot that the Chargers were in a bad cap situation. They had huge cap hits in Derwin James, huge cap hit in Khalil Mack, huge cap hit in Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Joey Bosa. All these players had huge cap hits, and they had to do something about it. And the only reason I didn't like the Jim Harbaugh I wasn't huge in the Jim Harbaugh move was because I don't think they're actually going to have the team to compete next year when people were like, this team is now going to go over the top. This team's going to get over the hump.
They released every single player on offense. Every single one.
Yes.
It's Justin Herbert, and that's it.
Yep. And I'm happy they did that because I think they're moving off these contracts.
Yeah.
They're going to get some new guys in, and in 2-3 years, they're going to be good to go. And I think this is a better way to rebuild your team than if you were just trying to do one more year, because I didn't think this team was ready how it was orchestrated anyway. But this is what I expected to happen, and now everyone's like, what are the Chargers doing? And it's well, they had to get rid of these bad contracts, and Jim Harbaugh is throwing up an amazing smokescreen for J.J. McCarthy.
Oh, my God.
Just absolutely fantastic. It's a masterclass. And so they can get Marvin Harrison Jr., and I think that's the player they should get, and that's more of a draft talk, but I just wanted to look at it from the Chargers' perspective. Keenan Allen, you're getting rid of his money, getting a draft pick. You need to add some more aggregate talent to the Chargers. I don't hate the move for them. I think they really just need to move off.
Well, honestly, what I think the Chargers honestly should do is if you can't go get, because I don't think Marvin Harrison Jr. is falling to 5.
I refuse to believe it as well.
I don't think he's going to fall to 5. I think, and both selfishly as a Giants fan, I think Chargers, you trade out with somebody like either the Vikings or the Broncos that want to trade up and go get a quarterback. So you pick swap with them this year, and then you get next year's first so they can go get their quarterback. So that way you're just building up these first-round draft picks because you need young guys in there. Like, just now. Like, you need immediate talent on this team. You need, like, immediate talent injected into this team now. Like, there's no time to be like, oh, well, we'll sign a vet and then have him for a little bit. Like, no, you need rookies. Like, you need rookies to be able to step up and actually start playing.
I love guys like, let's think of an easy pick. This is not, like, me coming up with a crazy trade. Vikings come up to 5.
Yep.
You trade, you get 11, I think is what the Vikings have now in 23.
So. Yeah.
So you get those 2 picks. You just draft for talent there. Maybe an offensive lineman, maybe a guard, whatever. It's 23. You see who's on the board. I love if you just go get Blake Corum, the running back.
Just replace a running back.
He's already familiar with Harbaugh. He can be your 4-down back, 3-down back on the team. So you got a guy familiar with the system, whatever. And then try to increase the offense. I don't think you should draft a single defender. I know the team has had defense problems, but you need to get Justin Herbert some weapons there.
Or else he's going to, he should leave if this doesn't happen. He will never because he's way too nice, but he should demand a trade to go to the Giants. Anyway.
Okay. We'll just move past that real quick.
Yeah, please.
Green Bay makes some good moves, getting Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney.
Yeah, those were great moves. Yeah.
Especially Xavier McKinney. I think it really adds another dimension to their defense.
I think it was a really good move. I think it is obviously a bit of an overpay, but I think that's the point. They could afford that.
Yep.
Like, that's the exact point. Like, that's why they could give him the bigger contract.
The Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones flip is a little bit weird.
Why?
I think Josh Jacobs is better, but it's kind of like going from an A- to a B+ or B.
Yeah, so it's like, why?
Yeah,
like,
well, I guess going from a B to an A-.
Yeah, so it wasn't like enough of a jump to really make a lot of sense. Like, you already have him on the team. Why would you?
Yeah.
Like, maybe it was for like slightly less money, I guess. But like,
it just like it was a little small move, but I do like it. You get a more traditional like 3-down back,
like running back,
and Josh Jacobs. You have some really nice offensive weapons there for Green Bay, and of course their defense was of concern last year. Xavier McKinney definitely helps out.
Xavier McKinney, he's going to be able to really, because him and Jair Alexander in the secondary is really, really going to help any of these young guys that are coming up. Because Xavier McKinney's a leader, he's going to be able to do a great job. He's going to be able to do a great job, like really kind of bringing up and like coordinating that secondary, kind of being that captain from like that further back role. Working with him and Jair are going to be absolutely locked down. I mean, it's a great move by the Packers. I hate that he left the Giants, but I mean, we couldn't afford $68 million for a safety. So,
yeah, I like both those moves for Green Bay.
Yeah, really good.
Texans load up a little bit, get Jeff Okudah, Joe Mixon, Daniil Hunter.
Yeah,
they're a team that drafted well, and when you draft well, you have guys on cheap contracts, and you can go out and spend money on these guys. Daniil Hunter, I think it's a fantastic move.
Yeah, him,
Will Anderson, it's a really good edge group there. You have Joe Mixon, who can play running back.
Very solid,
3-down back. That's kind of what they were missing last year. I know everyone wanted to fall in love with the kid from Florida. Forget what his name
Dameon Pierce.
Well, yeah, Dameon Pierce. But he's not running back 1. This adds a good running back dimension to it. And then just Jeff Okudah hasn't had the great start to his career that he was projected.
But if he's going to be working opposite Derek Stingley in a good young secondary, like he'll be able to work in. Maybe he's more of like a role player, but it's a very like low risk, high reward.
Yep.
Because maybe he fully blossoms into the potential that we all thought he had.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, the Lions secondary has been horrible since Jeff Okudah's been there. So it's not like
Jeff Okudah got traded to the Falcons.
Yes.
Yeah, and then he was on the Falcons. He didn't play that much at all, and then got sent to the Texans.
Yeah, so hopefully this will improve. I forgot about the whole Falcons thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So hopefully he can revive his career a little bit there. But I wanted to mention it because he was I think fifth overall pick.
Yeah, he was like 4th, 5th.
Yeah. Chris Jones, huge new deal in Kansas City.
Staying in the city.
Yep. I think this was a no-brainer for Kansas
City.
They
had to pay the guy.
He's gotten 3 rings with the team.
Yeah.
Defensive tackle is worth more than a cornerback, as we'll get into Legarius in a second. Yeah. And they pay the big guy.
Yeah. As much as as good as L'Jarius Sneed was for Kansas City, and he was like arguably like a top 3 cornerback this past year. Having Chris Jones in the middle, he is the anchor of that defense. Like, he's the leader. He's been there forever. He's the vet. He's still playing. He's probably a top, at least bare minimum top 2 defensive tackle in the league. Like, he's still utterly ridiculous, an absolute game wrecker, and he just needed to stay in Kansas City. They just needed to pay him, like, period.
Yeah. I think it's just good for team vibes.
Yeah.
He's won 3 rings there, and you moved on from one. You can pay the one, you couldn't pay the other.
Yeah.
L'Jarius Sneed, of course, goes to the Titans.
Yes.
In the trade there for the 3rd round pick.
Mm-hmm.
You joked in the beginning about how my disgruntled moment of the week would be why the 3rd round pick is actually a good trade. If anyone's wondering how they only got a 3rd round pick for L'Jarius Sneed, it's as simple as this. That man got $20 million a year. If you get a rookie like Trent McDuffie, like Justin Reed, who they've had no problem drafting these secondary players, them being the Chiefs, you can get this new guy on a $6 million deal, a $7 million deal a year. It's not worth it. And other teams viewed the same problem. Other teams don't have the room to spend $20 million, 64 or 60 of it or whatever is guaranteed the contract. Like,
I think it was $66 million.
I understand where you're
guaranteed.
saying, oh, a 3rd round pick is not going to replace L'Jarius Sneed. You're right, it's not. But you can't pay him that much money, and you weren't going to get anything better because other teams also don't have cap space. Like, teams looking for L'Jarius Sneed, like the Eagles, for example. Eagles can't pay him $20 million a year.
No.
Any other team, the Colts even, were probably a team that were interested. They didn't want to pay him $20 million a year. Like, there's a reason for this. That's why you only get the 3rd.
And also, I was joking about that, but I was actually serious that it was actually a good move by the Chiefs because they franchise tagged him first, so that they retained his rights, so that way teams had to trade for him. They couldn't just sign him in free agency. So even though, it's a 3rd round pick this next year, it's more than other teams got for their best players that just walked in free agency.
And we look at how well the Chiefs draft. A 3rd round pick is like a 2nd round pick.
Yeah, and or they could use that 3rd round pick then to package up in next year's draft to then like go get somebody that they want. So it's like, okay, well, you know what? Our corners are really were iffy this past year. All right, well, we're gonna package this 2nd and 3rd, and we're gonna move up in the 2nd round, and then we're gonna go get the corner that we want.
And I'll say a little thing: the cornerback class in this draft really good, deep. You got 32. Maybe some teams looking to trade back. You got a 3rd round pick, a 2nd round pick, maybe a next year pick. Package it up, move up into the mid-20s. You get
Kool-Aid McKinstry.
You get your pick of Kool-Aid McKinstry, Nate Wiggins, Cooper DeJean, Kenyon Mitchell.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're like, like, this ain't too bad.
It's like, they've got a really good young secondary.
Yeah, you're like,
this is horrifying.
You're like, well, if Nate Wiggins turns out to be good, we just gave him cornerback 1 Nate Wiggins. Trent McDuffie.
Best slot corner in the league.
Justin Reed, who's been great.
Oh, yeah. Well, Justin Reed, who they stole from Houston on a cheap deal. Then they have, I think it's like Nate Watson or somebody like that. Some random dude played great in the Super Bowl. It's like, who is this guy?
So I think for the Chiefs, it makes a lot of sense. It is, of course, everyone's like, Sneed was one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Yeah.
They just can't afford him.
They can't afford him. Like,
that's how salary caps work.
And this is how dynasties start, and this is how you don't end up like the Saints. Moving on. Well, actually, next on the list, talking about the Saints, Chase Young goes to the Saints for $13 million a year. I'm sorry. What is the function of doing a 1-year deal, 13? What is the point? I know you're not tying him to a long-term deal. Don't spend the money.
You don't. They're already like $70 million over the cap after they added $30 million to the cap. Why are you spending $13 million on Chase Young?
You're not going to be good. You have the 3rd shortest odds or 4th shortest odds of, or I think it's longest odds of making the Super Bowl out of the NFC. Like, you don't need Chase Young.
So
like, it's so unnecessary. You might as well just play a 6th round draft pick and hope that he turns into Aaron Donald. Like this isn't moving the needle.
It's so worthless.
It's all of this to maybe make a little bit of noise in the NFC South discussion.
Like, this isn't planning for the future because it's
1-year deal.
It's like a 1 year. It's like, oh well, if he plays well, we'll sign him to another one. Okay, He's already like in his mid-20s.
Yeah, this deal, I saw it and I said, this is the Saints. It's the Saints. Like you're in all this cap trouble. You keep making bad cap decisions, and you sign a guy to a 1-year deal. You have to pay him the $13 million this year or next year. Like move the money, whatever. You're over the cap. There's no reason to do this. Just let the young guys play. The Saints have been doing this thing where they refuse to believe they need to rebuild, and they're just mid. Every year.
Literally since Drew Brees left.
They're going to win 5 or 6 games, 7 games maybe even, and miss the playoffs, and it's going to be a problem. Again, we talked about it a little bit earlier. They don't have Alvin Kamara, not that great of a running back anymore. Jared Carr is not a great quarterback. Chris Olave is a wide receiver too. He's good. He's a wide receiver too right now. They don't have any other good wide receivers. They don't have any good tight ends. I mean, they pretty much have Jimmy Graham.
I think he might still be there.
Yeah, I think he's still there.
But they also have the Mormon Missile.
Okay. And they don't have that great of a team. This is just so unnecessary, and like I don't see what they did this.
I don't understand.
What I do see a team doing this for is the Giants getting Brian Burns.
Yes, because there's a big old difference between the success that Brian Burns has had and the success that Chase Young has had in the league. Brian Burns, I think, has missed maybe 3 or 4 games in his 4 or 5 years in the league. And so Brian Burns gets traded to the Giants for I think a 3rd and a 5th. I think there might be an additional one in there, but it's a pick swap, I think, in there or something like that. And he gets paid, what is it, $150 million for 5 years, I think, something like that.
5 years, $150.
5 years, $150. I don't think that's fully guaranteed. I think it's more I think it's more like an $80-something million deal with whatever, but whatever. Anyway, I think it's a really, really good trade, personally, because the Giants have needed a pass rush, basically since Jason Pierre-Paul left.
Yep.
And he won a ring with the Bucks anyway. But yeah, they've needed a pass rush because they had some decent they still have some pretty good secondary players. Had by Xavier McKinney. So sad. But with Dexter Lawrence up front, who is arguably a top 1 defensive tackle in the league, along with
top 1.
Yeah, top 1 with Chris Jones. Kayvon Thibodeau, he's been slowly progressing. Probably not the incredible, amazing impact that people thought he was going to be right off rip, but he's been improving every single year. This past year, he had, I think, 13 sacks.
He's good.
He's a very solid, and he's improving. That's the whole thing. That's what I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here. I apologize.
Not that I've gone on many a tangent.
Why every single year do we immediately label people as busts if they aren't superstars or all pros in their rookie year? It drives me absolutely insane. This kid is 21, 22 years old, coming out of college, has 4 or 5 sacks, and everyone's like, he's a bust. And it's guys, he's 22 years old. Can we calm down? He's 24, 25, something like
23.
that. 23. He's even younger.
He's 1 year older than us.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. He's 1 year older than us. And everyone's like, he's a bust. We got to trade him, cut him from the team. And it's take a breath. Everybody said the same thing about Andrew Thomas in his first year. He wasn't that good in his first year. His second year, he was one of the best tackles in the league. Third year, he was even better. Can we take a breath? And also, why do we keep just putting rookie quarterbacks into terrible situations? Stop doing it, please. They just need time to develop. Every good quarterback has some sort of time to develop. There are exceptions to this, obviously. Stop using the exceptions to the rule as the rule. God.
Right. So infuriating.
Sorry. But anyway, good trade. I'm glad the Giants got Brian Burns. Him, Thibodeau, and Dexter Lawrence.
A scary front.
Actually a very solid front 3 right there. Because Brian Burns is actually really good in the run game. Thibodeau's kind of iffy in the run game, so I think he'll be able to learn a lot from Burns there. Still got Okereke in the middle.
Yeah, I do think what's cool about the Giants, what they've done is that they're clearly not competing right now because they need to figure out the offense.
Yeah.
But maybe 2-3 years, this defense will still be there, still have the same guys. And if the offense can kind of catch up, then they'll have an experienced defense, and they'll be able to have a good offense, great defense, and kind of build. I see the vision.
Yeah.
5 years of Brian Burns, $30 million is a lot of money. That is the concern.
But the
there.
issue is that like the pass rusher market is already broken
Yep.
at this point, because it's like that's just that's realistically that's just what you got to pay.
Yep.
Like it's absurd, but like you look at every single edge rush, like I can't wait till Micah Parsons has to get paid, and Cowboys fans are like, no, he's worth $500 million. What are you talking about? And it's like, yeah, and you're calling Brian Burns an overpay when it's $150 million for 5. Like that's just inevitably what's going to happen, because like when you see it in the quarterback market, you see it in the pass rusher market, you see it in the receiver market, all of them are going up, whereas you see the running back and the safety markets are both crashing. So it's like it's just like an ebb and flow of like how positions get paid.
For sure. We were talking about the Giants, which you're obviously a Giants fan.
Yes.
I'm an Eagles fan, and you are a Giants fan. And Saquon Barkley became a Philadelphia Eagle in what was a shocking, I think, move, to say the least, to everybody.
Because the Houston Texans were really in there trying to get Saquon Barkley, but then the Eagles offered him $13.75 per year, something like that. Like almost fully guaranteed, I think. It was like a big ass contract.
It was a large contract.
But
3 years, 37.75 to 38. That's like 10, 13, like a little under 13 million a year.
A little under 13, that's what it was. I knew the 3 and the 7 were in there. But yeah, so let me be very clear. I don't hate Saquon Barkley, okay? He brought a lot of joy to Giants fans in years that
there was not a lot of joy.
There was not a lot of joy, all right? Let me be abundantly clear. Does it suck that he went to the Eagles of all teams? Yes. But if you listen to his interviews and stuff like that, he didn't do it out of spite, because it was literally just the best offer. Like, objectively, that was the team that offered him the most amount of money. Why would you not take that deal?
Well, when you look with the spot, like most money, good offensive line, a team that values the offensive line,
and
quarterbacks in place, good character guy, receivers, opportunity to win football games.
And you go back to kind of the same area that you played college.
Yep.
It's like, that's a no-brainer. Like, duh. Like, why would you not do that? Like, so, like, I hold no animosity towards Saquon Barkley. I don't think he, like, there are the Giants fans who are like, I burned my Saquon jersey because he's a snake. And it's like, guys, like, he did want to be a Giant for life, but we weren't going to offer him, like, $37 million. Like, that's just how that works. Like, different, because unfortunately the running back position is a luxury position. If a team can afford it, it's that final piece of the puzzle that can really take the team over the top. Look at the San Francisco 49ers. That's a team that had basically every single position filled, and they were like, hey, what's one last weapon that we can add to this team to really take us over the top? It was Christian McCaffrey. That's the Eagles. Do they have some holes on defense that they really need to figure out? Yes. And also one at center. But overall, they are a team that can afford that kind of luxury, because they have people under contract. They have a lot of young talent on both offense, some on defense. But they can build up a roster around Saquon Barkley, not as the number one option, but as a dynamic part of the not needing to be the guy, but just being a piece of an incredible offense.
Yeah. Speaking of the defense for the Eagles, they get Bryce Huff, edge from Jets. Great, I think a great signing there. If you know, like they've got the one edge locked up, Josh Sweat's over on that side.
Yes.
For now, but Hassan Reddick's supposed to be on the other side. He's kind of a linebacker, kind of an edge. He might not come back to the team. Whatever this is, it secures another edge rusher where you either have 3 edge rushers that are good. One can kind of shift back in coverage a little bit more. Just a great addition to the defense there, especially last year we had struggled with some edge rushing. The defense struggled last year, to say the least. But you already got your 2 guys up front, in Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. And I'm struggling with names today. And also they go and get Levante David from the Bucs, and I would just like to say, I think that's a great fit, because Levante David is not the best.
No. Devin White.
You're right. Devin White. Yep. I was like, I don't feel like Devin White. Devin White instantly becomes the best linebacker in the Eagles room.
Yes, absolutely.
He's experienced. I think he's the right guy. Like, linebackers are hard to come by.
Yeah.
There's not that many great ones in the league. They're an undervalued position, a luxury position. But I think we did the most here to get an experienced guy in the room, in the position. N'Kobe Dean, you hope he comes back healthy next year. If not, you can still draft guys, and I think it's a good player in Devin White to have there for other people to kind of work around.
Yes.
Like, the problem before was the Eagles were playing 2 linebackers who had no experience, and they were just kind of hoping for it.
Yeah.
Now we got an experienced one, and if we can work in some inexperience next to him, I think it works out a little bit.
Because that's exactly what the Bucs did with when they had Levante David and Devin White. Levante David, the very experienced vet, and then Devin White, the younger linebacker that was able to follow him, like really kind of build up his experience. Now Devin White moving on to the Eagles. You hope somebody like N'Kobe Dean can kind of like be next to him and watch. Now, issue with Devin White, he's a very good run-stopping linebacker, which the Eagles desperately need. Don't get me wrong. He's going to be great stopping the run. He's not great when it comes to coverage. But what helps is that he's such a good run stopper that you then can kind of feed in linebackers that might be better in coverage.
And I was going to say like a N'Kobe Dean because N'Kobe Dean's undersized.
Exactly. So it's like he might be better in coverage, but he's not as great of a run stopper. So that's where you can kind of have that balance of like, okay, well, we know this dude is at least good at being a downhill linebacker. We know that, period. At least we have that. So then you can work based off of that instead of just being like, I don't know what these guys are good at. They'll figure it out, I guess.
And then Eagles go more defense here. Sidney Gardner-Johnson.
He's back.
He's back. He said some things about Philly.
Which, I mean, he's not wrong. And also, I think Philly fans would agree with.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's back. Huge move there. We had safety issues all year.
Yeah.
Some due to injury, but you just kind of throw him into the lineup there. I think it's great plug and play. Also, Kenny Pickett comes to the Eagles.
They got their guy.
The
Eagles are going to the Super Bowl. Kenny Pickett's going to lead them like Nick Foles.
Yeah, I am extremely happy with what the Eagles did this offseason. I think
they had a good offseason.
I think when I saw Barkley's contract come through first, I was concerned because I thought we gave a lot to a running back. And then I saw that they were able to address a defensive edge, a linebacker, a safety, and then also get a backup quarterback. And I was just like, I'm sold. Like, I understand there's some, like, you are paying money to guys like Bryce Huff, Saquon Barkley, and stuff like that that you're not going to be able to get back. But I think they did a lot to address positions of need. They have a draft pick they can utilize in this draft. They can move up. They can move back. I don't think this, like, I think there's a little bit of this notion out here that, like, Jason Kelsey's gone. There's a new era of Eagles football coming in. I really don't think it's that big of a deal. I think everyone needs to, like, calm down a little bit about that whole thing. And I think this is a really good opportunity here for the Eagles to do some stuff. And I'm going to say it here because I want to be the first. A sneaky, like, thing here is that Jalen Hurts' contract is really big. And if Kenny Pickett looks good in camp.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I think the reason they did this with Carson Wentz.
You think they're trying to snake out Jalen Hurts right now?
I don't think they're trying to snake out Jalen Hurts. They did try to do that with Carson Wentz. I think they are saying, well, there's this quarterback in Pittsburgh who's a little disgruntled with the situation. He's a first-round draft pick. He got thrown into the fire a little bit. Matt Canada, no weapons. What if we signed him? You know, a hometown kid should be pretty happy. Signed him, sits for a year or two, gets into the offense, kind of gets the fundamentals back a little bit.
Give him a crappy contract.
Yeah, give him a crappy contract. Hey, you've been a great backup quarterback, buddy. And then what if Jalen Hurts isn't good for 2 more years? And you just want to dead cap him because he's going to have a huge dead cap hit. And you say, hey, we'll play with a cheap quarterback, Kenny Pickett, for a year.
Band-aid it.
Maybe he's good, maybe he's not.
Yeah, then band-aid it in the next one.
And then you can figure out the situation from there. And the only reason I mention that is because it's a big deal because of how big Jalen Hurts' contract is and how poor. Like, I'm sorry. Like, watch the games. He did not play well last year.
Well, and also his contract hasn't hit yet, I think.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah, so like it's gonna be a little bit. I think it's gonna be what, like
this year's coming out. It's like it's $50 million.
Yeah, it's a big cap hit.
So the reason I say this is just because it gives you a little bit flexibility to move off of him, especially for Pickett, who I think I was not a fan of Pickett coming out of college, despite being a Pitt fan, but he really got screwed going to Pittsburgh, man.
Yeah, he really did.
It was not a good situation. So that's a sneaky pick that I'm just going to sit on it for a couple years.
All right, so you're saying, well, I've already said in our group chat that as a Giants fan and as a Pitt football fan, I will if I watch Kenny Pickett raise the Lombardi Trophy as the Eagles' starting quarterback and win the Super Bowl, I will buy an Eagles Kelly Green.
It'll be an electric day.
Yeah. that Kenny Pickett jersey. I think he's number 16 because Gardner Johnson's number 8. So it's just a disgusting looking number on him.
It is, but I'm just excited. I'm excited to have him in Eagles. Just as a guy, like I like Kenny Pickett. And so it's cool to see him go to the Eagles.
It's so weird hearing you talk well about Kenny Pickett.
Well, okay. My talk about his play is just going to be, I'm excited that he gets to sit.
Yeah,
and
fair.
like play with some good talent, and then I do trust him to be a backup quarterback for the team. Like I do think he's a top 40 quarterback in the NFL right now, and I think he can play some solid backup quarterback for the team.
Not as good as Drew Lock though.
No,
he's best backup quarterback in the league. Maybe behind Ham.
Hard in the sleeve type of guy.
Hard in the sleeve.
Going over to the Steelers, who Kenny Pickett came from, Russell Wilson goes there on a $1 million a year deal because he still gets paid from the Broncos.
And then
Justin Fields gets traded there as
Justin Fields gets traded, and they get Patrick Queen from the Ravens.
Yep. And then they get Cordell Patterson today.
They got Cordell. Why? I don't know.
Yeah.
But, okay.
I guess the conversation we really need to have about the Steelers, Patrick Queen's cool, sure. Quarterback situation.
What are they doing?
You think that's your question?
Well, I know what they're doing, but like basically they're using Russell Wilson as the veteran quarterback, so then Justin Fields can sit behind him. You try to have Russell Wilson play out this year. You give him hopefully a cheap extension, maybe that, or you hope that Justin Fields beats him out in training camp so that way he's better, and then you just sit Russ and have a vet on the team. It's like basically they're banking on Justin Fields being good. Like that's the big thing that they're doing, but they still don't have a good offense.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was hoping you'd say.
Like,
can we talk, like, there have been graphics of like, oh, let's look at Russell Wilson's weapons this year. Wow, he's got a team. The Pittsburgh Steelers do not have good players on offense. And I think people are like the George Pickens throwing people on the ground, the highlight reels have given people this impression that George Pickens is a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2. George Pickens has not been that good.
Like he's had some really good catches. He's had some really good games. He's not consistent.
No, and Deontay Johnson just got traded to the Panthers.
Yeah.
So he's out
gone.
There. Najee Harris is not good. He's
Yeah.
okay.
Carter Warren?
Not Carter
Nope.
Warren.
Something Warren.
Warren, yes, Warren, but I forget his first name.
Yeah.
But he's cool, but he's a backup run. Like, so the running back is okay. Their number 1 receiver is not a number 1 receiver. They don't really have great tight ends. Their offensive line isn't that good. Like, this isn't a good offense, and I don't know why people. It hasn't been good. It wasn't good when Pickett was
It didn't
drafted.
change.
It didn't change. It got worse because Deontay Johnson left, and we're all supposed to sit here and be like, "Yeah, Russ is going to fix the situation." This is a 7-win team. This is a 6-win team. Maybe just by the Mike Tomlin effect, they get to 9 wins or whatever and miss the playoffs or get bounced in the first round. Like, this isn't moving the needle for me, and I think Russ is better than Kenny Pickett. But
Yeah,
their
that's
team has gotten worse.
Yeah.
And I understand the reason for Justin Fields, but I just want stand up for Kenny Pickett a little bit. This team drafted a guy in the first round, the hometown kid, the Pitt kid, who's in the Heisman conversation.
Yep.
They draft him, provided him with no weapons, a bad offensive coordinator. Everybody thought he was terrible. No weapons. He gets benched for Mason Rudolph in the playoffs. Like this whole entire thing.
And then also you bring in Russ, but then make it instead of having like, oh, we're just signing him as the vet, they bring in Russ and then are like, oh yeah, it's a quarterback competition. It's like, what the hell? You didn't even give me a shot.
Yeah. They said it wasn't a quarterback. Like they said it was Russ's job.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, this is gonna be Russ's job. You're gonna sit. It's like, why? Like because the second that Matt Canada left, he had a 300-yard game,
and that's what's so frustrating for me as like just a person who thinks that teams need to be managed better. Is I think you drafted a kid who shouldn't have been drafted in the first round, but you drafted him with the pressure of being a Pitt kid for like a bunch of years.
Yeah,
and then and ACC championship for Pitt football was huge for the city, and then you don't give him any weapons. Bad offensive coordinator, bad situation. He has a good game, gets hurt, benched in the playoffs, slap in the face. Bring in Russ, lose Deontay Johnson. Like, I don't know what the team's doing on offense.
I don't know. Like, and they're like their offensive line is like a little bit better, but it's not like good.
No, like the Steelers should consider drafting in that position. Like, it just, I don't see where this team.
I don't know.
I don't see the offense. I don't see the vision.
I don't see the vision either.
I understand why you go for Justin Fields. You got him for a 6th-round pick. You want him to replace Russ. I see that, but I don't see why Russ is there I don't see why you couldn't have just rolled with Kenny for another year while you kind of rebuild the team. But
Yeah.
anyway, our guy, Ham Sowell,
Ham
goes
Sowell
to the Seahawks. We
Seahawks.
talked about this a little bit last episode because we just bought stickers in the Commander's colors, and now we'll
immediately got traded.
Get new stickers. But Ham Sowell going
Yes.
to the Seahawks. I think it's really interesting because Geno's not the guy.
Geno's not the guy. I think Sam Howell just went into an awful situation, and they were like, "All right, we give up on you. We're drafting a young quarterback. Bye."
Because I want to
He was there for 2 years, and he was good. He was leading the league in pass yards this last year.
I just don't
for a long time.
What's frustrating to me about Sam Howell is that people are kind of like, oh, yeah, his stats, okay, those last, but they're not terrible. I know his QBR isn't good. He turns the ball over a lot, but
because they had to throw the ball 50 times a game.
Last season he had almost 4,000 yards passing, 63% completion percentage, a little bit low, 21 touchdowns, 21 interceptions. That's not great. He had Terry McLaurin as his wide receiver 1, which is okay.
Well, Terry is underrated, but
yeah,
the issue is that they didn't have a run game at all. They would have him throw 50, 60 times a game. So it's he's going to throw some picks as a second year's quarterback who played one game the year before. Then it's oh yeah, you're the starter. Go.
Yeah, I love this for Seattle.
Oh yeah.
I think he could just look good in camp and be oh, we've got a run game, we've got a
guy.
Pass catcher.
It's I'm throwing to DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Yeah. They got a decent offensive line. They have a decent draft pick this year, so they can draft on offense or they can fill some holes.
A lot of people think they're going to draft a tackle. Yeah,
they can draft a tackle. It's such a better organization.
I don't blame the Commanders for moving off him because they have an opportunity to draft a generation. Sam Howell isn't a generational talent.
No,
at quarterback, and they have an opportunity to draft one right now.
Yeah,
but man, it feels like
that's a missed opportunity with him.
It does, and I think for the Seahawks, it's a great move.
Great move.
Who could have potential. Baker Mayfield gets a big deal. Not much to talk about there.
We mentioned that a little bit earlier, but he stays in Tampa. That was good for both Baker and Tampa. I'm here for the Baker redemption arc.
Yeah, me too.
We love Baker.
Yeah. Talked about Snead to the Titans. Let's talk about Tony Pollard and Calvin Ridley.
Also the Titans. Yeah.
Can we talk about what the Titans are doing? Because they clearly believe in Will Levis.
Yeah, so they believe in Will Levis. They paid a running back. They paid a receiver. Don't they still have DeAndre Hopkins?
They do, yes.
Okay, so it's a couple years ago, if I were to say DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and Tony Pollard, that would be a ridiculous team. You'd be like, what super team has this? And then quarterback, Will Levis. And it's okay, I see the potential. I see it. I'm worried about that offensive line a lot.
So this is what I was going to say is I agree. I think it's a great thing to show your quarterback, we got your back. We got guys for you.
I will say, I'll give it to the organization. They're look, we're investing in you. They're doing the exact opposite that the Steelers did.
Can I throw something out there?
Shoot.
Tennessee Titans building a new stadium. Is there this thought that we can't afford to be bad these next
as
few
we're
years,
building a new stadium,
and we need to, even if it's going to be
we need the cash,
even if it's 6-7 wins a year,
we can't afford that. We need the money.
Not that they physically can't afford it, but this idea that they can't afford to have a bad reputation going into their new stadium.
Yeah, and then just the whole thing drops off. Yeah, you're saying from a business standpoint, they need to be at least halfway decent.
Because how are you going to sell to fans in a new stadium? Hey guys, we got DeAndre Hopkins on one leg, Will Levis, who might not be good, and nobody else.
And our defense is still bad.
And we fired our coach.
And we fired our coach that everybody loved. And there's one good player on our defense with Justin Simmons. That's it.
So
Vrabel went to the Browns, by the way. And the
2027 is a new
2027 also with the largest rooftop bar ever or something like
that.
We
gotta go there. We gotta go there,
dude. Nash.
2.0. Oh, run it back. Run it back,
dude. Do we have to go during football season?
We'll make plans.
Oh, Jesus Christ, my liver.
But I think for the Titans, good for Will Levis. I'm concerned about the Titans cap situation in a few years. That Ridley deal is huge, but if Will Levis is actual good quarterback.
Yes.
This could help out a lot. I get a little bit concerned about them competing with the Colts and the Jags and the Texans in that division.
Yeah.
But I understand the vision. I am worried.
Yeah.
But at least I can be like, you tried.
You know what? A for effort.
Yep.
B- for execution, but A for effort. Yeah.
And very worried you're going to turn into the Saints.
But you tried.
Yep. Arik Armstead and Gabe Davis goes to the Jags. I'm just really concerned about the Jags and their wide receiver situation. Calvin Ridley wasn't the guy last year for them. Gabe Davis is there now.
Trevor Lawrence is going to get burnt out.
Christian
there.
Kirk.
Like, they're just going to waste his rookie deal.
I just don't know. Travis Etienne is there, cool, but they really need a wide receiver.
They're just one of the teams that's they started off super hot last year and then just fell off a cliff.
Yeah,
and then everybody forgot.
Arik Armstead's cool. I like that pick for them.
Yeah, that's a
Josh
solid
Allen's
pick
back there. They need to improve the defense. They need to improve the skill positions around them.
It's just
they have a lot to fix before next year. I'm not sure they're going to get to it all.
Yeah, I mean, they just, I don't know. They're just not there yet.
Yeah, and then I'm going to run down, make sure we didn't miss anyone here. Justin Matabuke goes back to the Ravens.
Signed there. Yep.
Franchise tag initially. Jalen Johnson gets a big deal for the Bears.
That was a great job by the Bears to sign that.
T. Higgins
corner.
still franchise tagged.
Yeah, he's supposed to get traded, but
something to watch for sure.
Yeah, he's something to watch.
Christian Wilkins goes to the Raiders. Just not really sure what they're doing there.
Don't know what the Raiders are doing. Don't know what Miami's doing.
Mike Evans goes back to the Bucks.
Yep.
Pittman back to the Colts.
Yep.
And Tyron Smith leaves.
Oh, to the Jets.
Yeah, to the Jets. Huge deal for the Jets.
Yes.
Really trying to throw some protection around Aaron Rodgers there.
They are old.
They are old.
So they are gambling everything on Aaron Rodgers' ACL.
Yes.
Or Achilles, whatever. Both.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, but it's good for them. For the Cowboys, so you haven't heard their name a lot in this episode. They
signed Eric Hendricks, and that's it.
It's concerning.
They didn't do anything. They didn't change at all.
They weren't good enough last year.
Didn't they cut Michael Gallup?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they lost Michael Gallup. They signed Eric Hendricks, who's fine. He's probably a mid. He used to be a lot better, but he's probably mid right now.
I mean, Leighton Vander Esch retired.
Vander Esch retired.
The Eagles got better.
The Eagles got better. The Giants got better.
And the Commanders are probably going to get better.
Well, I mean, they've got.
I know they're not good, but they'll
look. They got Austin Eckler though.
Yeah,
they got Austin Eckler.
They can't run faster than I can run.
Can't really run that fast. So you know what? They're going to be good.
One mention here. It's just not really a big deal. Robert Hunt, which is one of the better offensive guards in the league, who played for the Miami Dolphins, went to the Panthers. That is a big deal, just for maybe giving
holy overpay.
Yeah,
but they're desperate to just give him some sort of protection.
Yeah, give Bryce Young some help. So I just wanted to point that out as that could be good.
Wow, you solved one of the offensive linemen. Welcome to the Giants.
Yeah. Some guys who are still out there right now: Stephon Gilmore, Jadeveon Clowney, still out
they're still out there. I think Zadarius Smith, went back to the Browns, I believe.
Willie Gay leaves the Chiefs.
Yes, he leaves the Chiefs. I know the Giants signed every free agent offensive lineman ever. They signed 5, I think. I think they literally signed every single position. I think they signed not every. I think they signed a center, 2 guards, and 1 guard that can swing to tackle. And I believe another. I think they signed 5. It's 4 or 5. I can't remember. But thank God, first of all. And to all the fair weather Giants fans that are like, why are we not getting Trey White right now? Our offensive line has been bad for 12 years. Let us have this for the love of God. All right? We need something. Sorry.
That's free agency.
That's free
agency. In a nutshell. There might be some more updates.
There's going to be a ton more updates. There's a ton of people that we missed.
And we'll talk about a lot of teams in more detail later.
Yeah, we'll break down each of the divisions individually and all that later. Just once the draft happens and then once free agency comes to an end, we'll really be able to recap and see the full vision of what teams were able to do. Because this draft is going to be ridiculous.
It's gonna be fun.
I think it's gonna be nuts.
I'm getting into all the draft weed right now. It's been really fun.
Yeah, I've been watching film on people. Malik Neighbors, please come to the Giants. Please,
It's been a long episode, but I do want to cover the NFL rule changes.
Yes,
I don't want to
real quick.
I don't want to wait till next week to do it.
Yeah.
The big ones of note. First one, hip drop tackle.
Gone.
Bad. I don't like this at all.
Dumb.
I understand protecting player safety. Player safety looks like grass fields that have been statistically shown to be better for players and injuries.
Yep.
And not letting the turf fields be bad, especially certain turfs. And
looking at you,
the hip drop tackle is going to cause a lot of game-changing fouls at the end of games. It is going to cause experienced players to completely redefine how they tackle.
Yep.
And I just don't know if it's that beneficial and how much the hip drop tackle really has led to injuries.
Realistically, if the NFL had any sort of brains, this would have been put through in. If they thought, well, here's the thing: if this was
Players Association didn't want it.
If this was really about player safety, let's be clear here.
Yep.
Why is this only in the NFL? There's millions of kids that are playing football every year. Why isn't it going in at the lowest levels? Why are these not going into the lowest levels first? So that way it's working its way up. So that way by the time that these pros get into the league, they don't hip drop tackle. If they really cared, that's what they would do.
Yep.
They don't. They just want to be able to say, we care about player safety. And look, objectively, is the hip drop tackle, like, does it injure people more? Yes. Period. Like, does that happen?
Exclamation
Absolutely.
point.
Like, yes, this absolutely does. Let's be very clear. But the way to enforce that is so subjective and odd. It's like, are you going to penalize somebody just because it caused an inadvertent injury? But, like, how do you blame the player when their intent clearly is not to do that? And, like, you know, I understand we're trying to switch to like almost a more rugby style tackling where it's like you're really trying to wrap the legs up and stuff. But, like, they do this in rugby too sometimes. Like,
I just think
I don't know. Like,
I just get nervous about the flags flying around next year.
We
in
already
big
have
spots.
we already have so many issues with officiating. We don't need more flags.
Yeah.
At least not at this point. If it was like officiating was perfect, and then it's like, okay, we're gonna add this, so it'd be like, okay, let's see how it goes. But because of all the issues with roughing the passer, because of all the inconsistencies with like pass interference, like, it's already so hard to play defense in the league. And then now it's just going to be even more difficult because somehow you have to, like, take down somebody that's bigger than you without using your momentum and tackle them forward if you're behind them, but you don't want them to go forward because then they're going to gain more yards. But if you do that the wrong way and you're not perfect, they're going to add 15 more yards. So it's like, what am I supposed to do?
Teams gain a third challenge following one successful challenge. Cool.
All right. Makes sense.
If you have a double foul now with the change of possession, like a you foul, interception, they foul, the foul gets enforced as long as the foul did not come prior to their possession. So, for example, if I threw the ball,
I intercepted,
and you intercept it, and then on the return you get a roughing the passer,
okay,
you still get the ball, but the penalty's enforced.
Was that not how it was?
Yeah, I think it canceled it out before.
What?
It's not a rule we're going to see a lot. The rule says if there's a double foul during a down when there's a change of possession.
Oh, so it's like if there's offensive holding, I intercept the ball, and then there's also roughing the passer.
Yeah.
I still get the ball, but then only roughing the passer is enforced.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's permitting that. Replay assistant will be allowed to correct incorrect calls for roughing the passer, intentional grounding. If it's objective, that's good.
That's actually, why was that not news? That's good news.
Because kickoff stuff.
Okay.
And then that's huge just because if it's a bad roughing the passer call,
they
we
can
can
just review it.
Overturn it.
Yeah.
Same thing with game clock expiring. We can do that now, which is not big deal. Here's a number, something designated. I don't know what that is. Trade deadline pushed back 1 week, which I think is cool. Because it wasn't pushed back, but the extra week onto the year, and now it's pushed back. That's good. Clubs can elevate a quarterback unlimited number of times from practice squad for emergency quarterback. That's also good because quarterbacks keep getting hurt.
Yeah, they need that.
So that's that. The big one, of course, is the kickoff return.
It's the XFL, baby.
I would encourage you, if you've made it this far in the episode and
somehow
and you don't know what the the new kickoff return rule.
Just
go
go
look it up.
Just Google it real quick.
Because I'm not going to explain it because you're not going to understand it.
It is so complicated to try. Like, we would literally need a full whiteboard and it would still be confusing.
But essentially the idea is nobody is moving when the ball is kicked
until the person
catches it.
Yes.
And what that's going to do is going to stop high-speed flying tackles, stop people running full speed across the length of the field with injuries. It'll also allow better chance for returns because the return team and the kicking team, their lines of players who are chasing
are like right next to each other.
And
also way further up the field away from the kicker.
So there's going to be this more idea like where everybody's blocking each other up front and they're not running into each other at high speeds.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll really be a testament of which line can make better tackles.
Yeah.
And those players can run through. There's also some things where you want to kick it between the 20s and not through the end zone because then it'll come all the way out to the 30. Some neat stuff. I'm really excited for it. I think it will reduce injuries. It won't be very obvious because sometimes these players kind of like limp off the field versus like no one gets like cracked on the kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's going to hopefully increase the number of kickoff returns we have. And
yeah,
teams can get really unique with their designs. Like you could have some more like fake actions and stuff.
Yeah, and also, God forbid, if it's horrible, they could just take it out next year. Who cares? Like
no fair catches, I think is fun.
That's fun. Like so, you have to return it.
Yep.
Yeah, like I like that
as long as it doesn't get kicked through the end zone.
As long as it's not kicked, yes.
And if you can kneel it for the possession, it's a 30-yard line thing, though. That's not going to be advantageous for teams. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what it looks like.
I am excited to see what that looks like. And obviously, some people are like, "Oh, well, this is so gimmicky. This is dumb." It's like, okay, well, the kickoff was already like basically useless. Like there was like 10 returns last year,
and if you can get a receiver a kicker who can really pin it within the 5,
can really pin it,
like really talented at getting it into that area, you might get like people like teams that are constantly starting at the 20 versus teams that are constantly starting at the 35, 40.
Like that's a big difference,
and that could like change games and possessions.
Or if you get a kick returner that's really good, that's able to break through these lines, it's them versus the kicker.
Yeah.
And then it forces kickers to get athletic, so then now they're players.
Yep.
Instead of being just kickers. Sorry, Pat McAfee.
Yeah, I get more excited the more I think about this. I think it's
going to be interesting. I think it's going to be really, really weird watching it at first. But it's going to be entertaining.
What's fun is someone tweeted this. I didn't come up with this, but the first play
the
first
gonna be
play
so
of the
different.
2024-2025 NFL season will be something we've never seen before.
Yeah, it's going to be wholly unique.
But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And also, at the end of the day, guys, let's not forget, it's a game. It's supposed to be fun. Like, I know they're professional athletes and all that, but like, who cares?
Yep.